Steve Alvarez Brown. You might know him as the Super GT. Steve liked Jimmy Broadbent from small, loved automobiles, and he played a lot of racing games, racing sims and all. But when he was 11, he got his own go-karts. He raced and became a champion. But there's a reason this guy also quit his job in a warehouse and got full time into YouTube. More on his story and go to his YouTube channel. He's got a much better video on it. Obviously, Steve is the greatest diver of all time. He has max speeds every day of the week.
Now, can we just already stop about this? It's just ridiculous, honestly.
But you see, his diving is not special just because of how hard he can push the brake. It's all about the way he enters his corners. Observe the Dive King's lunge. He lunges to a point on every corner, by the way. Again, I'm going to take observance from a random live stream he did, taking note of all these inputs: steering, braking, acceleration, and everything else. Take note also of his camera angle. He, for some reason, really adores the BMW M6, and that's the car that we're going to use to check out his driving. On one of his random videos, Steve goes flat out to the absolute latest point possible. Then he brakes hard at the braking threshold, nearly too late. Actually, it is too late. But then at the entrance, as he abusing the trail brake, keeping his foot on to a certain point with less braking torque applied, but firmly there, slowing down the front wheels and not as much the rear wheels, encouraging more rotation around the engine with a higher wheel speed ratio. He enters the turn like that, and that's what justifies his super late braking. This guy rotates FRs very, very well, but things come alive when you put him in an MR. 650S, 458. His dive bomb braking technique works perfectly. Take note, when you start braking is not as important as when and how you lift off the brake, related to your steering and throttle input. The thing about 911s, rear engines, Beetles, something that I've mentioned in the past before on a previous video, quite a few previous videos. You see, a 911 is a bastard.
Them 911s are standing ready to kill any sort of imperfect driving like a machete in the hand of a drunk monkey.
The way you think of braking and turning and steering and opening the throttle after driving an M6, that must be thrown out the window when you get into your 911. You see, driving a 911 is not just any form of driving. Driving a 911, it requires its own special finesse called Porsching. If you can Porsche, you are truly something. Yes, you heard it right. 911s have psychology. I'm telling you the truth. They mess with your head, because in a 911, the rear is not meant to rotate around something within a wheelbase, but everything is rotating around the rear end. Therefore, the rear must follow the front turning rotation trajectory, be in line with the front. So trail braking, turning and throttle inputs, everything must be modified greatly for a 911. So the high lifted modified wheel speed ratio that would be good to apply to an FR because of the engine position, do that in a 911 and you're only making the engine a liability of weight torque. It's gonna suck. Understand, oversteer at the same time, boy. To put it the simplest, while the front turns rotating by steering angle, the rear must simply follow the front, going within the same trajectory. Because the front and rear wheels are both in front of the engine, there shouldn't be a large wheel speed ratio, higher or lower. Rotation in a 911 is accomplished by following, not spinning. So because of this, braking, liftoff, turning and throttle inputs, every single input must be totally readjusted to suit the perfect rotation required for a 911. Like I said, if you can Porsche, you are truly a driver. Steve Alvarez Brown, the Super GT, we're getting back to him now. One random live stream of his, he just drove a Beamer, the same M6, and he was driving it impeccably. Let me just put that in. I was studying his driving, keeping my one eye on the road and the 911 and all, and my other eye on the throttle and braking inputs, and my third eye on the wheel. Yes, that's right, I have 3 eyes. Well, actually 4. At first, driving the 911, he kind of binned it, raising the wheel speed ratio too high with the too deep trail brake that he was using for the M6. And Steve himself says, you gotta be really careful the way you brake in these 911s. And it literally just took that one little small slide of the rear end for Steve to know what he's doing wrong and know exactly what he has to do. And for the rest of the race, he was driving like a Druid of rock, full confidence, impeccable speed. His braking release timing, the measure of braking at every point related to the steering inputs, turn in. He was able to transfer enough weight onto the front axle, lift off the brake gently enough to keep that weight there and not let the front rebound spring too hard that it loses all of that grip. But the lift off of the brakes related to the steering was early enough that by turning he's not lifting up the wheel speed ratio too much, provoking a further front pivot of rotation, creating a slide, have a meeting with barrier, lose all his time. Rather, every input was just perfect. He rotated this 911, observed the motions, the movements, the trajectories, the rotations of every part of the car working in harmony. Steve is a master of braking. Steve just Porsche. That's right, Steve can Porsche, and he's a master of it.
Look at how brutally fast and efficient he turns in out of foxhole. He drives this 911 as rapidly as the mysterious 86 driver.
But one other really good quality he has, it's called smart racing humility. Every racer should have this. Steve does not feel bad to see how someone else is faster than him at the moment. He loads a fastest ghost onto his simulation, sees what he's doing to be faster, and integrates what he can into his own driving, according to his own driving style and technique. Learns from the people faster than him, and then he gets faster than them. Pole position. Steve is a G. Steve Alvarez Brown, greatest lunging breaker, esteemed by Chief Piston, better than Max Verstappen. Well done, Steve. You're amazing, bro. Keep up the driving and get even better. I want to see you racing a Porsche in real life soon. Maybe a Porsche 911 GT3R or a 911 RSR or something. But before we end tonight's video, I need to point out something very overlooked. Steve set the Super GT Racing League into the shadow realm on YouTube. Okay, what do I mean? You know the Super GT Racing League, the real racing thing in real life? When you search on YouTube Super GT, I guarantee you Steve's channel is gonna come up first, not the highlights of the last race. Oh, a racing league just got shadowed. Steve is the king of the shadow realm. Check you, my petrol heads.
Get in there!